a self-luminous celestial body consisting of a mass of gas held together by its own gravity, in which the energy generated by nuclear reactions in the interior is balanced by the outflow of energy to the surface, and the inward-directed gravitational forces are balanced by the outward-directed gas and radiation pressures. The apparent brightness of a star depends on both its inherent absolute luminosity and its proximity to the observer. The brightnesses of all stars were traditionally based on the apparent visual magnitude as perceived by the human eye, from the brightest stars of first magnitude to the faintest at sixth magnitude. Oftentimes you may associate blue with freezing, or red with hot, but with stars it's exactly the opposite. Blue stars are the hottest, with their surfaces sometimes exceeding 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Yellow stars, like the Sun, are cooler, but still very hot. Their surfaces reach about 9,932 degrees Fahrenheit. Red stars are the coolest, with their surfaces sometimes less than 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The biggest and brightest stars are the hottest. Some of the big ones can grow to be over 100 times the size of our Sun. Their surface temperature can exceed 90,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This heat makes them blue in color, or sometimes even white. Stars of different colors and temperatures last for different periods of time. Blue and white stars are the ones with the most fuel, but they use it up quickly, only lasting a few billion years before they run out. The yellow stars, similar to the Sun, last about 10 billion years before they run out of fuel. The small, red stars last the longest, over thousands of billions of years. When a star runs out of fuel, it swells up into a red giant or a supergiant. These large stars are very cool, because their cores are no longer producing fuel. A protostar is a collection of gas that has collapsed down from a giant molecular cloud. The protostar phase of stellar evolution lasts about 100,000 years. Over time, gravity and pressure increase, forcing the protostar to collapse down. A T-Tauri star is a stage in a star's formation and evolution right before it becomes a main sequence star. This phase occurs at the end of the protostar phase, when the gravitational pressure holding the star together is the source of all its energy. Main sequence star. The majority of all stars in our galaxy, and even the universe, are main sequence stars. Our Sun is a main sequence star, red giant star. When a star has consumed its stock of hydrogen in its core, fusion stops and the star no longer generates an outward pressure to counteract the inward pressure pulling it together. White dwarf star. When a star has completely run out of hydrogen fuel in its core and it lacks the mass to force higher elements into fusion reaction, it becomes a white dwarf star. Red dwarf star. Red dwarf stars are the most common kind of stars in the universe. These are main sequence stars, but they have such low mass that they're much cooler than stars like our Sun. They have another advantage: neutron stars. If a star has between 1.35 and 2.1 times the mass of the Sun, it doesn't form a white dwarf when it does. Supergiant stars. The largest stars in the universe are supergiant stars. These are monsters with dozens of times the mass of the Sun. Nebula stars are born from clouds of dust and gas in space. Protostar. The newly formed protostar continues to grow, devouring the material of the nebulae. The main sequence depending on the mass of the protostar. At some point nuclear fusion begins at the core of the star, where hydrogen is turned into helium, causing the release of vast amounts of energy. Lifespan. Throughout the main sequence, the star very slowly contracts to compensate for the loss of energy as heat and light. With contraction, the core becomes more dense and the pressure at the core rises. Giant. Once a star begins to use up the hydrogen at its core, the core collapses, creating more heat. Old age. A lower mass star may survive for billions of years, but the hydrogen and helium gets used up before